Hello and welcome to Chapter 8. In this beginning section, it's a good time to review the functions chapter, or the chapter that has functions in it. So hopefully you have reviewed that already. This section tells us about the functions that teachers and students use in the classroom. A lot of these are exactly the same as functions that we studied before. So, like I said, every part of the TKT is useful. You have to review everything as we go. All right. Now, what are 3 reasons why teachers talk in the classroom? Well, I think the most common are to give instructions or to ask students to do things, maybe greeting, saying goodbye, explaining things to them. 3 reasons for students to talk. Also greeting, asking questions, talking to other students. There's a lot of different reasons why students talk. If they don't understand something, they have to be able to ask the teacher or another student to help them. Okay, so a couple functions of teacher language. One is instructing, another is explaining. Remember that these are different. Instructing is telling students what to do, giving them commands, saying, okay, open your books, turn to page 3, and do exercise 1. Those are instructions. Explaining is describing things to them, maybe explaining a grammar point or some definitions of new words. All right, so explaining is giving information, describing things for them. Instructing is only telling them what to do. So hopefully you don't do it that often. Okay, check learning. This is a very important function. After you have taught something, you need to check and make sure that your students have learned it. That means asking concept questions usually. So after they've completed an activity about, say, the present perfect, ask them more questions to make sure they understood. Check on their learning. This can be like, okay, Tom, tell me when we use the present perfect. Or just ask them questions using the new structure, like, John, how long have you studied English? You know, make sure that they can still create with the language they just learned. So that's another teaching function. The student functions, there aren't that many listed, but again, they're pretty much the same as the functions that we learned already. So I'm only going to talk about one. I think this is the most important. Asking for clarification. Your students have to do this in the classroom. They're learning. If they don't understand something, they need to ask you about it. They can't be shy, or else they're not going to learn anything. So you need to give them the language to do this. In Taiwan, a lot of the kids don't ask correctly. They might say, teacher, how to say, or teacher, this is what. These are wrong. You have to teach your students the correct way to ask you questions. So, you need to drill this into them from the beginning of the class, okay? The exponents, remember exponents are the actual words to express the function. So the exponents of clarification would be like, can you explain this word? Or I'm not sure what this means. Things like that. Or simply, what does this mean? It's fine. Okay. Now, look at the box and answer the questions. Okay, 2 further functions for students that I thought of were interrupting and describing. I know that as a teacher you don't want to be interrupted, but it's important. If your students don't understand, they should be able to raise their hand and stop you so you can explain something. or else they will lose the rest of what you're saying. So they should feel free to interrupt you. They need language for that. Exponents might be, excuse me, pardon me, or I'm sorry, I need to ask a question. So those would be different exponents. Exponents for describing. Often, if your students don't know a word in English, they must paraphrase, which means they must describe the meaning or describe the word they can't think of. So you need to teach them language to do that. I think the best way is to teach them to give details about who, what, where, when, why, how. So if they can't think of a word, they need to tell you who uses it, where you find it, or where this is done. Okay, so the exponents here aren't exact phrases, but they are giving details about something. Okay? Next, teaching functions. How should we teach functions to our students? Well, as I said, I think the classroom language is very important from the beginning. So, in the first class, you need to design an activity around this. On the board, you can write, how do you say, or how do you spell, or excuse me, teacher, what is this? And also, you can have, especially for younger learners, you can have posters around the room with the sentences they need to use in class. This is very helpful for younger learners, also for elementary students or lower level, because they won't be shy. They'll be able to speak up because they can look on the wall and know what to say. So it's very motivating, very encouraging, and it also makes for a more relaxed environment.